Hello, everybody. Welcome to CyberKia, a show where enterprise cybersecurity wisdom happens one podcast at a time. Today's episode is a special one for a couple of reasons. The first one is this is our first multi-guest podcast. So we're going to learn something in that multi-guest podcast as well. Other than that, I am fortunate to have two of amazing leaders, thought leaders from our industry, whom I have collaborated before, whom I kind of interact pretty frequently. They are experts of their field, but the one thing which we're trying to cover in this is like a project they are leading it, and they are very passionate about it. We will cover that deeply in this episode, hopefully. If not, we will try to even follow up with a subsequent podcast too. So, without further ado, please join me to welcome Julian Petersohn and Waseem Ajrab to the show. Julian and Waseem, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
So, for someone who may not know you, I want to give you some time to introduce each of you. So, I don't know who wanna go first.
So yes, as you mentioned, thank you first of all, Gaurav, for having me on the podcast. Great work that you're doing towards the SAP security, and definitely very valuable. Yes, as you mentioned, my name is Waseem. I currently live in Germany. I work at NoMonkey, managing the global product and services around our NoMonkey advisory. So anything that is related to SAP cybersecurity, whether it is different services in technical pen testing, SOC, from also the academy part of NoMonkey, where I also provide these courses for cybersecurity professionals who are new to SAP. So my background comes from the cybersecurity side, where I did a lot of SOC, I did a lot of offensive security, still doing it, but in the context of SAP, helping these different three lines of defense, as I call them, whether it is around your cybersecurity, IT security, SAP, and audit, internal audit, to understand SAP, understand criticality of SAP, and definitely understand how we can improve maturity around SAP cybersecurity. And I believe today we're also talking about the OWASP Core Business Application Security project, which I started with a colleague, I would say 5 years ago, and now grew with the different tools, with the different contributors, with the different also project leaders like Julian with us today as well on the call. So as well, you joined us for a few interactions within our Discord channel, which is great. But of course, this is for later on. And I think this is a small, short introduction about myself when it comes to what I do around the Japanese world, I call.
Thank you, Waseem. Julian?
Try to keep Waseem out of your company. That's my main goal. So building and developing tools to protect SAP landscapes. My background is also more in SAP consulting and offensive security and pen testing. And well, yeah, that's my day job. And not in my day job, I'm one of the project leaders of the OWASP, where I try or work with Waseem to get knowledge and tools out there to make SAP, I would say, a little bit more safe. SAP deployments, especially, not the company. Yeah, and looking into how we can help share and sharing is caring, as it usually says. So trying to push out information to everyone. How secure is it?
Sharing is caring. I love it. That's what I'm told all the time by my daughter. So sharing is caring for sure. That's why we are here, right? So thank you for coming on the show, both of you. Now, Julian, we had you before, but Waseem, thank you again coming on the show. So I heard OWASP project from both of you, and this is our topic of the podcast too as well. So what is, I know OWASP may be a very common thing for non-SAP world, right? If you talk that OWASP thing, not everybody would probably heard about it, right? So can you just maybe give an introduction, like what is this OWASP project we are referring to? What is the why behind it? And then maybe we can go deep dive into for, I say, yes, this is a project to help customers secure SAP in a better way. So if we have customers or audience listening to it, how they can either use it or join it or whatever we can do it. So, but let's start with the introduction. What is this OWASP project?
Absolutely. Maybe I could kick it off, and Julian can then continue. Well, first of all, to talk about OWASP in general. So, if for the listeners who are not aware of OWASP, it's quite a extensive place, or it's a foundation that actually hosts a lot of open source security, application security projects. So whether you are testing for mobile security, whether you are testing applications, your top 10 vulnerabilities around web applications, LLMs. Currently, this is a huge project where it tackles the top LLMs. And then we define that definitely when it comes to SAP, while it's a huge, while some organizations think it's just a small application, it actually runs as the core to a lot of different multi-billion organizations out there. So we decided that to provide the OWASP core business application security project as, first of all, an informational tool, how it started, where we can easily elaborate, explain for cybersecurity, for IT security who consider SAP as a black box in their environment, how to protect it, how to mature it, what things they should look into, what things that they need to be aware of. And from there, it slowly grew into the tools like the attack surface discovery, where you can take these tools and develop or try to understand where your gaps exist, where they do not exist. You can even try to provide or use tools that help you to do even pen testing. So we use some of these tools that are available within the OWASP project, OWASP CBAS project, to do pen testing. And then finally, with our latest release, which was the open source first ever SAP pen test playbook, where we are trying to provide already known information that is out there that can help organizations really look into these different areas of SAP cybersecurity. So in general, to summarize it, and I'll hand it over to Julian, the OWASP Core Business Application Security project is mainly trying to address this SAP cybersecurity problem, I would say, from different aspects to help professionals, whether they are within the SAP space or not, to actually tackle it within their organizations. I hope that fits it, but Julian, please do add if you have anything from your side as well.
No, I think that fits it perfectly. What I would maybe want to add is like, so the whole SAP ecosystem world has multiple challenges, but one of those is, I think we spoke about it also in the last session, is the knowledge is like aging out. Mm-hmm. So there are many people having a lot of knowledge, and they learned that mostly by just doing it and or running across it, failing, fixing it, continuing on that. And that's a lot of knowledge. And to be honest, I'm not a great writer, and same for me. So I know stuff that maybe Waseem doesn't know, and I don't have the time and the amount of energy to write a blog post about that, to share that knowledge. So it's quite often you meet someone, you exchange, and that's where we say, hey, we need a place where we can centrally store those information, where we can put all those data together on an easy way, and everyone can contribute. So we start like building a knowledge base that's easy for even for newcomers that have never heard of what the hell is an SAP system before, that they can easily start and say, okay, let's fix that and let's make it more secure. Or how can I check if it's even vulnerable against?
Absolutely. I think if I could add one point, the most important point to add is that it's not only for SAP security professionals or cybersecurity or SAP cybersecurity professionals. It is for those cybersecurity, IT security professionals that have no idea or never seen SAP system there. So that's where our motivation in creating this is, that it is now the talk within the cyberspace rather than a corner in an SAP basement in an organization. That's more of where we wanted to go with this specific project.
I love it, because I think one of the reasons, as you mentioned, this SAP being a black box for the cyber folks, the infosec folks. So I love you saying this is not just for the SAP audience. We want to write in a way like it can become more like a natural, because that's the word probably they live, right? They are familiar about OWASP. There are different projects and OWASP top 10 about web applications and LLMs and everything else going on. Um, so I heard this OWASP project has some kind of a knowledge base. I heard some standard. I heard it has some tools. Then I heard pen testing. So I would love to kind of go deep dive on every these pieces one by one. And I don't know if you can share something like a sharing on the screen. If you can, we'll love to do that too. But for you, Waseem, so I think so as I said, there's different things going on there. So what is the first thing? So if you have to define it, the OAups is more of a knowledge base. That's where you start. Like, so I open that website. Where do I start it? Like if I'm a customer, a SAP customer, or I'm a CISOs, or I'm a SOC guy, or I'm somebody responsible to even do a pen testing. So where shall I start? First following this project and maybe get engaged with it, or maybe use it in whatever thing I'm trying to do. So what is the first thing you would see, or you want customer to see or use it from your side?
Well, from my perspective, I think right now with the how the project is becoming or turning out, I would definitely look first of all to understand in any department, in any, or specifically around who works in security, depending on the different levels, is to go into the wiki around the SAP attack surface discovery, or that has been currently moved to the SAP Pentest Playbook. This SAP Pentest Playbook will at least give you the initial information on the important components of the SAP, what they are, and then how to look into it in your environment. What these components produce, why are they critical within your environment, what can they do? And based off of that, you could then understand, okay, how can I use the other tools to actually identify or detect whether these components can be vulnerable in my environment? And then there is that process right now that helps you achieve that with the available tools that are within the entire project. Now, once you reach that level where you want to start securing it, where you want to look into the baselines, or at least some areas that are recommendations from different sources. So whether it is your normal SAP security baseline, which definitely has a lot of stuff that needs to be added to make it that mature baseline, whether it is from the what we utilize in Germany is the German user group guidelines, or anything related more towards expanding that baseline, we can determine and find it in this SAP security verification standard. Now, the thing is, when we, as it is in an open source, where we definitely want contributors here, is to provide that context. I think Julian put it in a proper way, where he said, on our free time, we try to do this. Yes, it has grown, but there are definitely areas where we still need to update, where we still need to provide. So I would summarize this and put it in a way that, with the new release of this SAP Pentest Playbooks, it really puts perspective into the different components. Go look at it there. I think it would support your journey on how you can utilize the tool. From my perspective, that's how I would look into it. maybe Julian has other ideas from how he comes into the SAP, or at least into the project side.
No, I mean it's the same point. So I think it kicked all off with the security verification standard. That's where you started initially, and I think it's like you need to start somewhere at the end, right? Usually you start with your problem statement. What's the goal? What you try to achieve? Usually you're not coming around with, well, it's a free Sunday. Let's look into SAP and how to secure it. Usually that's not the case. Usually there is a need. Like, okay, hey, we have a huge SAP landscape. I am a guy sitting in our SOC. We want to understand, how do we need to secure it at least? Do we have any exposure there? Do we need to? What is that? What is SAP? I have no idea what they've bought there, and I think that's exactly the point. And if you start looking into like the Pentest playbook, you get an overview. What is SAP? What does it mean? What are the different components? What could cause a problem or a challenge for your security? What not? And from there, you then can abstract and look, okay, usually you start with detecting what do we have? What's our footprint out there? What is our exposure? And then you maybe shift over to the attack surface discovery. Or you say, okay, well, we are good on that angle. Let's look deeper and say, okay, we need to see, hey, is there anything in compliance? Let's speak about the security verification standard, right? Checking that we are secure, aligned with, and to be fair, it's a jungle of standards we have out there in security, right? There's NIST, and yes, the secure operations map, and the security baseline template, which somehow comes together. Then there's the SAG, the German-speaking SAP user group, and I think IBM has their own reference map, and so on. So there's a long list of different ways on how you can secure your SAP environment, and that's what it brings together. It tries to combine all of them and makes one visible tool and standard out of that. And after that, you say, okay, well, that's great. It looks pretty much we are secure. Now let's continue monitoring that. So now we want to look into like deception technology. How can we simulate an SAP system to catch an early attacker in our infrastructure, right? To get logs, to see what's going on there. And that's like that end-to-end chain. Lovely said. And on the track, there are certain tools like SAP Killon, or there is Zscan and others, which can be used to validate your security standards, or even if you're doing a pen test, hey, use them. You want to know if there's maybe something broken out there in the encryption mechanism. Perfect tool for you. That's basically like the long way from we have no idea what SAP is, we need to secure it, understanding what it is, digging into security, and then having that way to secure it, monitor it, and be able to keep it on that. It's
Absolutely.
a bit of the flow.
I would add something else there, if I may. With the SAP standard or SAP Security, we named them so much, but the standard verification standard, what we did with it is actually mapped it to the NIST Cybersecurity framework. And then based off of that, we have the mappings directly then to your CIS controls, to ISO 27001, because then you can directly, there's a huge Excel sheet within the GitHub there that can give you an understanding what is applicable from these different controls, because this is what your IT security department would understand. Your normal cybersecurity framework, your ISO 27001, your CIS controls, and how to map them to then this SAP areas within your organization. And that's an important part within this Excel sheet, even though that definitely needs some updating, but not towards the new NIST cybersecurity framework that was released, because I think govern then remains on overall the organization rather than a specific application. So an important part is that sheet where it can guide who do not know about SAP, where do these areas apply to SAP, if that makes sense.
No, thank you. So I heard different tools as well, and standard, having all the different standard Linux cybersecurity framework, ISO 27001 and others too. Uh, Maybe do you think we can share the site as well? Maybe uh, is it the next good thing which we can do, Waseem, or do you want to just continue talking? Do you think we can share it? Or you
Absolutely.
want
I
to
think we can.
maybe okay? Gonna try
I
that.
I could share my screen, start with the initial page, and just go through what we've been talking about.
Yes, I
And
think that
Julian,
probably
we're
would get good more. I know rubber meets the road, right? So you wanna maybe make it more easy for our audience, at least who are watching, not listening in. Okay. Okay. So this is the OWASP project, and what is this? It's called Core Business Application Security, right? CBAS, right? That's the
absolutely.
project
So
name. Okay.
yes, the core business application security project. I know it's a mouthful, but definitely, at least our intention starting this was to start with SAP, as it is one of the most core business application when it comes to different business processes within organizations. From there, we don't know how far we can go with core business applications, but at least we concentrate on SAP. This site definitely is up for an update, I would say, with not adding the SAP security or the SAP penetration testing playbook, which Julian will show us shortly. But I think this graph can give you an idea of what these different projects or what we were talking about, whether you want to start with your posture validation and baseline controls around the SAP security verification standard, where I was mentioning this mapping toward NIST, CSF, and towards your ISO, towards your CIS controls. Or do you want to do some sort of deception around Honey SAP or PySAP to actually create some sort of traffic, for instance, with PySAP, to look for any kind of, let's say, malicious activities, but things that you actually create, so you could understand that layer, network layer of SAP and the proprietary protocols that SAP uses, whether it is the DIAC protocol or RFC. It is an important part here to understand how it works. There are some other aspects on how you could read that traffic, but I think currently we're working with Wireshark to actually improve a dissector that was provided to them around SAP. Now, it definitely, this SAP dissector within Wireshark works on very older versions, but with newer ones, I think this was broken. And from this adversary simulation, going into the understanding your attack surface management from left to right to go towards the attack surface discovery, it's what gives you that entire overview of how you can utilize the different areas. But to, let's say, put everything together, if Julian would be so kind to share the SAP playbook pentest or SAP pentest playbook with us, so then we can have an idea where you can get started, at least in securing what runs the world, whether it is how you want to contribute or how to use this SAP pentest playbook. But regardless, I'm not going to go and read it all, but you can see here the different technologies, the different network components that are available within an SAP environment that can be and have been very famous in being attacked. In most of our pen tests that we do at NoMonkey, these are, I would say, 60 to 70% all the time we find at least some of the different weaknesses, and this is weaknesses in configuration rather than vulnerabilities, to be very honest with you, that you can actually exploit. So these kind of weaknesses in configuration, this is something that we can and we have control over in terms of securing, and these would provide you here within the SAP Pentest playbook. So if we go further down with the known attack vectors, these are, just as a disclaimer here, These are known attack vectors that have been published somewhere in the internet, and we've accumulated that during I would say a hackathon between different contributors within the community, where we provided at least this top 10 or whichever how many numbers that we really look into when we are doing a pen test. Now, there's definitely, we want to include the BTP as it is now becoming more and more dominant into this area. And then the Java stack, which we're hoping that we don't see anymore, but there is a lot of applications, or there is a lot of organizations actually using Java still. And of course, whoever doesn't know Java or does know Java knows what kind of headaches comes behind Java. So in general, and of course, you can see the other solutions that are on the roadmap that we want to actually address, we want to look into, and that's an important part of why we definitely need contributors, those curious people who want to dig into SAP and properly understand how we can create those attack vectors, or whether understanding our attack surface discovery.
No, I love it. I think I would be honest, when I saw this, the whole image here, secure, and then hack is kind of a cut out and say what a secure word runs the word. And the best was, the hook was, we know your RFCs better than you do. So I don't know whose idea was this one, but this is amazing. This was one of the reasons I said, let's talk about this on our podcast too. So is this you, Julian? Or I don't know, whoever came with this is amazing.
Yep, that's Julian's idea of creating this. Well, to be very honest, and to put it on the podcast, he switched the it was hack what runs the world rather than secure. But if we don't want, if we want to,
so
we want to remain on the good side of SAP, I think securing is better than hacking.
And the hook is, we know your RFCs better than you do, right?
Definitely.
That's like it has so much of, I don't know. It just hits you, right?
Well, to be fair, if you look into the hack what runs the world and take that slogan, we know your RFCs better than you do, I think it makes a little bit more sense, to be fair. Because usually the attacker sometimes is a better understanding of your whole infrastructure and landscape than sometimes IT or you do, unfortunately. Because, it's grown and you need to follow certain rules and there need to be documentation and stuff. A hacker doesn't care about that. So he breaks in, finds the best way he thinks he could approach, and well, that's what he goes. So usually he knows sometimes your system's better than someone else who tries to follow all the standards and rules, and that's a bit how we came up. And to be fair, it's a bit offensive slogan. So it let you will think after that usually about your security maybe. Yeah, that's how we came up. And then we tried to, hey, let's keep it a little bit in cyberpunk style, the logo. And then we came up with the logo and that image and said, let's go. That looks, I think that fits. And then we think, well, we should maybe change to that we secure it instead of hacking it. So, yeah.
Yeah, we are the ethical hackers. Even if hacking means the ethical side, we are hacking so that it's secure from the bad actors, right? So hacking has two meanings, right? So we are the good guys here. So
of course, and I think that's also an important part. You always need to. I mean, when you look where the term hack or hacking comes from, it's just a guy who's wildly typing on a keyboard, right? Remember those keyboards in the 90s and 80s with the clickering sound, which we have now back because it's now cool. It was like the hacker. At the end, it was just a programmer and a guy who sits a lot on a keyboard. And now it's the term has changed, I would say, in the last 10 years to a pretty bad meaning. But at the end, it's like, hey, that's just a guy who looks into the application and thinks of maybe a way that is not intended to be used for that app. But what happens when you do that with the app, right? With that application or that code? If you just use it on an unintended way, does it still work? Or does it maybe break so you can make it more secure and reliable for everyone? And that's a bit of the idea behind it.
Yeah, Gabriel, I think I had him on the podcast. He talks about everybody should have the hacker mindset, right? He talks about the hacker mindset involves like you taking taking no as saying this is not the right, finding a different ways and failing, and then finding to fix a thing and just not just accepting the status quo, right? Saying questioning things you are doing and things maybe questioning the way the SAP security has been done all these years. Questioning SAP can be breached to understanding, and you need to go beyond traditional GRC, and that's one of the thing. We as a community are trying to do, right? And this is one of the effort you guys are driving and leading. So, and again, this is I would say I just love it. But if I'm somebody, I'm just looking at it at the very first time. I was seeing maybe this is for you or maybe for Julian too. So I just it's more like a wiki for now. Like where shall I go first? So I see this now. I see different things. Okay, there are different attack vectors. I see a web platform, which is the platform for now. And was changing with BTP, and you said you're gonna add BTP as well. So where shall I begin? Yeah, shall I focus on the ABAP platform here first, and then maybe go deep there? Right, that's the idea.
I would definitely start from there, at least understanding that part, because it's still a huge part running. So ABAP platform, as if the listeners are actually looking at the screen, so you can go through the technology overview, reconnaissance of these different technologies, what they are. They provide that to know what they are, and then finally how you can identify that in your environment based on the tools that are available within the overall project. So I would definitely start from there before going into more complex stuff, whether it is around BTP, even though it's a bit easier if it is properly explained, the business technology platform. But I would start with ABAP because it's something that is running within organizations. Now, if you are starting as completely new to SAP, you don't have an environment, maybe you are implementing environment, this is going to completely change towards your BTP business technology platform, and to some extent the ABAP platform, the S4HANA platform, which still is addressing, or at least you look into these different aspects of the attack vectors, the different components that are on the S4HANA. It doesn't particularly change. It just changes who protects it, those roles and responsibilities. So we go back a little bit towards governance here when we are talking about newer technology. But it really depends on deployment model, deployment service models as well. So I would, from my opinion, I would start with the ABAP platform, understanding important components and understanding what I need to look out for, what are the most common attack vectors, or at least, attack vectors, critical paths that I need to worry about, and dig deeper into there. So that is my way to go. It's actually a process or a curriculum I also provide for cybersecurity professionals as a crash course, and this is how I would take it with people who are just starting within this Japanese world.
Julian, your response to it?
Well, adding to Waseem is a bit also what's the pain point you want to look at. If you're completely new, I mean, ABAP is, I would say, 70% of all SAP deployments. Java is aging out and BTP is coming up. So that's the definitely you will find anywhere or somewhere an SAP ABAP platform system, like an Aviva stack or so, or more. But also there's a little bit, what's your need? What are you looking at? Is your SAP basis coming over and say, hey, we need to look into BTP? Well, then maybe have a look at what is BTP and look into what should you look at and what are the points you should figure out, and how to, well, basically proper secure it. Because in BTP, usually you do not have the ABAP platform in that kind of style. But it's still there. So it depends a bit on from which angle you're coming to that whole topic, and what's your point of view, basically, and what's your driver, just to keep it as business slang. What keeps you awake and what drives your business, right? At the end, it's like you're looking into BTP primarily. Hey, look for that, go for that. And one point you ask for regarding also contributions. Well, we try to make it quite easy. So if you look on that page, there's always that edit page on top. So if you see something like if you go to BTP, the best destinations, and you say, well, that's not that what I would expect and want to add something, click on edit page. Log in with your GitHub and you can edit a page in the browser and add new content and submit it basically. And that's why we say we need to make it easy to contribute and extend basically. That's for just a super simple example here. For example, how to add new content, how to let it grow.
So if you're a BTP expert or other experts, we need you. I think come here, contribute here, right? And we need help, right? I mean, we need collective wisdom. I think not help, but we need collective wisdom. That's what we are saying, right?
Exactly. It's like I mentioned earlier. It's like everyone knows something someone else doesn't know.
Yeah.
And even if you think everyone else knows that, no, it's definitely not. Put it in there if it's not already in there. It was the same for me. I was like, yeah, well, that's known. No, it's not. We need to document. And so, like, if you look into other topics, like in the dispatcher, for example, that's all stuff I was just sitting in between, like in the train. It's like, okay, hey, I have 20 minutes. Let's do some work and add some content here and continue and then let it grow. Yeah.
Okay. So I always try to bring the S4 transformation topic in my podcast, at least for the SAP guest and for the SAP audience. So from a customer perspective, right? I'm going on S4 transformation journey, most probably on the RISE model, which is a private cloud edition. I may lose, as you said, Waseem, the responsibility are shared between SAP and you as a customer. But even in that architecture and setup, I'm able to use this OWASP pen testing project, right? Is that true?
Definitely, but I would go back to understanding where your roles and responsibilities. You will find, like, if you're going brownfield, for instance, I would still look into your custom code. This is something that a lot of organizations, I think, undermine is custom code, how vulnerable it is, and how it is easy to actually bypass, privilege escalate, what so not to do with these custom coding, custom reports, custom applications that are introduced within your SAP system. So it's not a black box, it's not isolated. It has a lot of different integrations. So I would definitely consider that. So you will find that as well in the project manual stuff. There are tools that can help you definitely with doing it on a faster pace. But these are manual stuff that we provide when we are doing, for instance, a pen test and we don't have any kind of tools for us to do any kind of automated custom code scanning. I would still look into your interfaces, and these are important parts where interfacing, unless you do you include security from the moment you have this discovery phase within your transformation project, then go ahead and look into interfaces security as well. These are two important areas where it starts to become like they're still under your responsibility. SAP or whoever is your provider when it comes, or whoever the security roles and responsibilities fall under, you still have those application level or interfaces to some extent going into, the presentation layer responsibilities. And that's an important part where you need to understand. So not everything applies. It's definitely on our roadmap to see how that changes with the different deployment models. But to be very honest, the different components are still there. So all of the different aspects of anything that is introduced to the system by the organization is still your responsibility. It doesn't fall under SAP or anybody else to that matter of fact. And that's what I try to also follow, or also try to provide to what we do, or our customers in general in that perspective. I believe that the areas within security or within the areas of OWASP also applies. Now, also, as I said, make sure that the field, what you're looking into, brown or green field, is really in that perspective, or then you can map it directly. But as I said, it's nothing that we have directly mapped out for these different environments.
Thank you, Waseem. Julian, anything you want to add on that?
Well, I mean, I completely agree with Waseem. And it's also all, which path are you going? And yes, those guidelines or information, they definitely can help. But there is a little bit more to do before, like when you go for the migration, there's like, okay, how do we transform? As Waseem mentioned, is a brownfield, is a greenfield. What are we gonna keep? What are we gonna maybe throw away and move back to the standard, or maybe rewrite, right? Looking into clean core, what's the stuff we maybe move or migrate to BP? What's the stuff we want to keep or maybe completely redo, or even completely outsource and say we buy a product for it. And this completely changes the whole attack surface. Because now we introduce new components, complete new code logic, systems that were before sitting together on the same side because there's the same code running on the same system now is span across multiple environments. And it needs some network communication, and that's could be also a challenge for your whole infrastructure team, right? The communication need to be at. There needs to be some connectivity. How do we allow that? How do we route the traffic? How do we keep it up in some disaster case, for example? And there's a lot more to that than just security, I would say, and considerations around that.
Absolutely. One thing to add, I actually heard from, forgot who told me this, but I would say that within also a transformation, there's this avocado transformation field where you think it is a green field approach, but it's still brown from the inside, right? And it's so true that this avocado approach is, when I go into assessments, go to support our customers in this after the transformation, I see it. It's wonderful from the outside, but if you start digging deeper, it's brown, and you've just moved everything that you did not want to properly put into your discovery phase around security towards that transformation project. So that's what I like to always use this avocado field approach, so that yes, it's shiny from the outside, but please make sure that the inside is still not brown. Like if you're going for a green field, go completely green field. Forget about the avocado approach. Summarizing it.
Yeah, Andrew, and I think also where there is the big challenge here is, or the most common is like they're super motivated at the beginning. Yes, we go for greenfield. Let's clean it up. Let's keep it clean for now. And after 2 years in the project, you figure out, well, that's definitely a hard piece of cake to move around. You know what? Let's just ship whatever we have that we can go live, and we can clean it up later. I think that's the most underestimated term in security. We can fix that later. No. You will never fix it, buddy. That will be forever your issue. And I think, yeah, avocado approach, I think, describes many, many projects, unfortunately.
The more I love avocado, but I haven't heard this kind of a term just for the SAP. So I will take this and maybe use it in future, Waseem. And I love it. I would actually think it's looking at the image was coming in my head when we were talking about avocado, the brown and the green. So totally relate to it. And as you're saying, Julian, and this is like that future never comes, right? The security has to be baked in. It has to be, I don't know, not just for the security, everything else, right? The whole clean core approach, right? If you just delay and if you say we'll clean it future, that future is not coming.
Yeah, and I think also, I mean, the future can hit you quite hard, right? I mean, that could be, maybe it happens never. You're lucky. But the problem then is, it's like always also the discussion is like, what do we need to invest into having security guide or security tools in place to prevent any hacker breaking in or something happens, versus what is our invest to just proper secure it, and or what happens when the hack happens? What does it cost us? So like the two sides, right? And what's more expensive for us? And yes, at the first it looks like, yeah, just ship our old code, which could be vulnerable to production. It's easier and cheaper. Time, we save a lot of work and effort and money, blah blah blah. But well, maybe 1 year later you will regret because now you need to fix that. And it's also, I had it from customers in the past. Well, it's not only that maybe yes, there's a vulnerability and someone breached our system. The question always when something happened like that is, what has been breached? What has happened? And if you have now your avocado, which now is maybe a little bit hairy because it's old, and now figure that out. Try to find out what happened, and now you have that mixture of new coding, new stuff, old things, which you just shipped and never looked at it. So your time to get back to business, because usually in the time the systems are down, right, is much longer, and that costs you even more money. So that can, in the worst case, take you out of business, because now you need weeks to figure out what had happened. You know what to clean up and go back to a production state, stable.
I think I think I could disagree on one point you said, Julian. That security in the beginning doesn't cost you that much. Like in a transformation project, the amount of money that goes through there, security doesn't cost you much. It costs you much when you do it afterwards. So when you include it within the transformation project and what the costs are for a transformation project from end to end, the security is actually not that big of amount compared to your other areas of business processes that you want to migrate, right? Or start from new, at least. But if you go afterwards, this is where it costs a lot. As you said, then following up with your story of whether there will be a breach or not, or it will take time to actually accomplish when you are live, because changes are not going to happen as fast as you think they will happen when you are live in a business process running. You can't put it down and so on. My opinion, at least.
No, that's true. I mean, if you do it in the flow and if you keep it on the project and do it side by side, I 100% agree. If you like say, okay, we go live and then we start doing security, yep, there will be a great multiplier up front for what it costs you to now secure that, because you cannot take it down easily, right? Or just stop it. And 100%.
So the way I kind of trying to digest it, have your security, whatever, whether it's a technology, it's a process, it's just your resources, right? And the policies, the whole govern function, right? I'm a fan of new cybersecurity framework, right? You have to start with your policy. Like, what is our policy? What is our requirement? What is our baseline? What is our control? What is our compliance requirement? What is our cyber control and things we need to do? And then maybe solve these with it's a marathon. We always keep saying it's not something you just plug it on and everything's done, right? And as I heard this avocado effect, and I always try to say, like, at least I can't control everything. Maybe I will control my avocado. Maybe my avocado is like my security avocado is good. So for the audience, maybe I know the infosec guys, because what I have seen is like in the S4 transformations, we don't even have cyber guys on the table, right? And I asked that question to I think almost every guest, right? It's mainly the SAP basis guys, SAP security guys, and the SAP leadership who kind of driving that whole transformation, right? But let's focus on that, because if you can even empower our SAP basis and SAP security folks, and maybe they know about this OWASP project, and maybe they can still use some of it, right? It's always good to have something than having nothing, right? So how, if we have somebody like from SAP basis or security listening to this podcast, Waseem, and they know about the OWASP project, how they can use that in the S4 transformation, whether it's like a something they do it when before migration, like maybe do like assessment before knowing how good or bad it is their landscape, or like at what phase they should be using our tool? We discussed the pen testing or the assessment, the discovery tool. What's your take on that? If you want to respond to it, Waseem or Julian.
Yeah. Um, I think well, it's quite hard to determine, but for an SAP basis, why I say it's quite hard, it really depends on, as I said, the different deployments, different stuff, different roles and responsibilities. Because if you're going completely greenfield and nothing in the system, and you're going on public cloud, then other than anything that you introduced in custom code, that would be it, because roles and responsibilities then are to some extent under different areas. But when you introduce interfacing, sure, you can then utilize it. I would always start just into understanding how different controls are applied maybe to the NIST cybersecurity framework. But this is something also when it comes to SAP basis, guys, or security. So in SAP, when I came into this SAP world, SAP security was always related to roles and authorization, which I don't, I'm not a particular fan of this SAP security word. So that's why I combine it with SAP cybersecurity, where it's everything together. While yes, sure, roles and authorization is a big part of it, but they also, from an SAP perspective, they do not know the NIST cybersecurity framework, or they do not know these different controls. So I would even start from going backwards, to be very honest with you, or at least looking into, you mentioned the project, is looking into understanding the NIST cybersecurity framework and how it is related to the SAP areas, at least to start there from the SAP basis, guys, within the mapping that we have done, because they know to some extent the SAP secure operations map that has been released by SAP, and how these different controls are mapped on these different elements, or at least categories. And that's how this mapping is done to the NIST cybersecurity framework and ISO. This way, you could then open a conversation, once you know this kind of controls, with the cybersecurity and vice versa. You know, they ask questions and they reply, and SAP basis would ask question and the cybersecurity would reply, because it takes it takes two to tango. It takes two to protect this SAP monster, whether it is cybersecurity and SAP basis. SAP basis are the professionals when it comes to the different things that happen on an SAP system, and cybersecurity people are the professionals when it comes to protecting anything. And if they cannot communicate that properly, then I think there is a different problem. So, but when it comes to bringing that together, the SAP security verification standard within the OWASP project can definitely help start at least understanding how these controls are applicable to the entire environment within the NIST cybersecurity framework.
So I'm hearing like you need two, as I said, two for tango, right? So work with your cyber team, infosec team, use the OWASP project, the playbook and the tools and everything. And we are saying, I think that's a true statement too. I don't think the SAP security community, the SAP basis community, as they have been over the years, they have this understanding. So I guess we need those two words to come together, and then we call it SAP cybersecurity, right? SAP cybersecurity is not just one team. It's a combination of cyber guys and then the SAP security and basis guys. So maybe you need those three teams to come together. Make sure you are on the table of the S4 transformation. You are there from the phase 0. You're not just talking about GRC and role, and then system is up and okay, everything is moving, the data is getting migrated, then you just go live, and then you just wonder what happened here, right? How we are looking around cyber. So that would be hard. Anything you want to add, Julian, before we wrap up? I feel like this 1 hour is not even enough to cover this topics, and we probably have to do it again. I keep repeating it myself. I guess we always think we will just do 30 minutes, but I feel like we almost 1 hour, and it's not enough. Just because it's so complex. It's changing now, and then It's getting better, I would say, changing for the better, but still we need to do a lot of work on both of the side, the cyber side, to make sure they understand SAP as the way we understand. Also, the SAP guys has to learn the cyber knowledge as well. So anything last maybe thoughts, last advice to anybody listening and watching from both of you?
Well, I guess that's what we all or would say at the end. Hey, work together. Work with your cybersecurity team, work with your IT, and together with the SAP team. And also sometimes what I've seen in companies is that even the SAP developers are split from SAP bases. Work together. It's one company. It should be your goal to keep it secure together. And I think I mentioned it last time in the podcast. Your cybersecurity team maybe had already those challenges you're now facing, like with migrating maybe to a new cloud platform called BTP. They know that already. You do not need to do that lessons learned again and maybe run into some or have some failures. Ask them for help. They already have that. They have maybe even the standards. They can help you say, yeah, you know what? Easy one. We do it like step 1 to 3. Easy. You do not even need to think about that. They can help you. And I think that's something you always should keep in mind. Work as a team, work together, bring them early in. Even if they maybe are not saying anything at the beginning, because they're just listening and try to understand what your challenges are and what you're trying to build out there, because they've never heard of that. But bring them in, let them follow with the full project. I would bet they had similar challenges already and can help you already with stuff that is easier to solve than for you. And I think that's the most important part, work together.
Yeah, I
love it.
definitely
Waseem?
for my last support that message. And you can have definitely those shiny processes in place with proper documentation, with everything going on, and the right technology, flashy next gen X, whatever you want to call them, technology. But if you actually do not have the right people in place, then all of this can go tumbling. And that, for me, or at least for what we do, is important to connect those three pieces, whether right people with the actual right processes, with the technology and the tools that can support teams, and not the other way around. So for me to summarize that, I would definitely, as Julian saying, work together, put the right people on the right table, regardless of what they know or do not know, because as was mentioned, someone has gone through certain issues, certain elements, certain processes, that a reinvention of the wheel is not actually necessary when it comes to also SAP. So that's about it.
And join the OWASP project if you can. So
Definitely.
if somebody is willing to join, how they can reach out? Just open and that the OWASP project, submit a request, or what is the?
We have there's a Discord channel on the main page of the OWASP page. So if you just search OWASP Core Business Application Security, there's a Discord channel with over 70 people in that Discord channel right now. We post important SAP security notes on a monthly basis if we need to discuss them. Any kind of announcements, any kind of project changes, you can find it there. If you want to get involved, get in touch with me or Julian or anybody within who works with us around this project. Our emails for OWASP are provided on the page. So whichever way you would like to contribute, reach out, go to that website, and then let us know. And we'd be happy to guide you on based on your expertise on what, or if you just like to create for us some web page, please do. Absolutely. So just contribute or let us know, and we'd be happy to have a chat with you. And definitely we do require the support and help.
And maybe as a quick start, to find all the information Waseem was talking about, just go to securitysilverbacks.com.
Yeah.
That's really just, so we made it's a redirect to our main OWASP page. You find there a list of all the projects. You find there the Discord link. You will find our contact data and all the other stuff. And I think we haven't linked the playbook yet there, which I figured out while presenting. It's playbook.securitysilverbacks.com. Just go there, have a look. And sure, any contribution in any kind is more than welcome.
I see the hoodie and the logo as well.
Sure.
The one you're wearing, Julian. So you can,
Yes.
okay, I can see it.
We all have stickers and swag.
Okay.
But I think you need to ping me or Waseem or stuff like that.
Okay.
Or
So I
find
heard,
us in a lot of B-sides events. You will find them.
That's true.
Okay. So I heard the URL will post those on the podcast. Is it LinkedIn as well as a platform where they can reach out if they have questions to the both of you?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. Okay. So we'll put those links and the way they can reach out, they can join the community, they can contribute to the OWASP project. Thank you again for both of you for what you are doing. I know doing something for open source as a community, not something you are getting paid for. The volunteer work is not easy. People don't realize that. It takes a lot of time, your energy, and so thank you for both of you and everybody who's part of the project, doing that for our community, expanding the SAP Security to SAP Cybersecurity, which is the reason of even why we are here, right? So even the CyberKia, we're trying to even do our part, my part, and whatever we can. But thank you, Waseem and Julian.
Thank you.
As I always get promised from my guests, like I don't think one episode is enough. So we will probably have to have. I'd love to have you again on the show if you guys say yes.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gaurav. And we'd love to also be on the show again. As I said, we can talk about this for hours and hours. But thank you for having us, and definitely a great addition to the cybersecurity or SAP cybersecurity, I would say.
Yep. Thank you. And I will again have you both, or maybe a bigger team. Also, this is about my first two guests. Maybe we'll do like other team, other person who are helping on your project, maybe next time, or just two of you. I would love to have you. Happy holidays. And again, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you. Enjoy your holidays.
Thank you very much. Happy holidays, everyone.